All right, hello and welcome back to the Coaches Show. Ryan Lindley, I'm Eric Myers. Another great week in Morton sports. Let's kick us off. What do we got to go with?
Let's start with girls golf. Second at the Pontiac Invitational, and then a split with Dunlap and Metamora. Dunlap had a 176, Morton had a 177. Metamora was the low score at 175.
Crazy, I mean, right? That's one strokes, one missed putt, one little approach shot right there. But good job to our ladies golf team, right?
Yeah.
Keep rolling right there. Lots of invitationals, lots of tri-matches happening. They're starting to get closer to their postseason too, so positive there. Let's switch gears. Let's go from the course to the court. What do we got?
We got girls tennis, and Mid-Illini win with an impressive victory over East Peoria. So 3-0 now for girls tennis in the Mid-Illini. So you got to feel really good. Obviously, early in the season, you get those Mid-Illini matches, and you're sweeping them thus far.
Yeah. So it sounds like our girls sports are on a roll. So I think we have one more girls sport, volleyball.
Volleyball. We talked last week. Obviously, the volleyball was having a great year, and the great year has really continued. Defeated Pekin in 2 sets this week. We'll take on Limestone later on this week, and so obviously you feel like volleyball is just at a really good spot. They're racking up Mid-Illini wins. They've done well out at conference. So I mean, some postseason expectations I think are starting to build for that program.
Yeah. All I hear is high success finishes. Right. Golf, tennis, volleyball. We're winning, ripping out those Mid-Illini sports right there. So it's an awesome thing. This morning, though, we had an opportunity, well, I guess you had an opportunity to sit down with maybe one of the unsung heroes of the sports fall. They have their own realm, let's put to say, and probably one of our favorite guests that we have out there, Mr. Craig Hatter.
Yeah, obviously we always enjoy talking to Mr. Hatter. I mean, it seems like obviously anytime you bring in marching band, you learn some things. I mean, and I'll admit, I'm not a musical expert, so I feel like I learn a lot when I talk to him, which is always kind of nice. So we sat down, we talked to Mr. Hatter. Let's go ahead and watch that interview, and then we'll talk a little bit about what we learned. Welcome back. Ryan Lindley here with our marching band director, Craig Hatter. And let's start with this. First competition this past Saturday at Washington. Just kind of your assessment of the first competition out this year.
Yeah, we had a really awesome day, both in competition and in rehearsal. We, as a band staff, really enjoy going to Washington because we have a full day of rehearsal beforehand. The students were able to get a lot done throughout the day. We worked on producing the portions of the show that we performed that evening, both in costume, out of costume, with our brand new props. And then in the evening, obviously going up against one of the largest Central Illinois competitions, and coming out grand champions is always a really nice feeling, sitting in that end zone. And then hearing your name announced as first place is always a really, really awesome thing for our students. And then there's something to keep working for as well. We know that there's plenty of things that didn't go our way in that production. So even so far this week, the students have done a really, really good job of adding in new elements and new performance opportunities. So it's been a really, really good time.
Awesome. Kind of talk about that a little bit. Like, where are you? And you don't necessarily need to give a percentage, but as far as like where you want to get, at the end of the year, where do you feel like you are at this moment?
So we have a pretty long season. We go all the way up into mid-November. So it's a little bit different than some of the other programs, both in our area and just in the state. But we're about 3/4 of the way through our show visually and musically. We are looking to start working on that last portion of the show here pretty soon after our invitational next week. And along with that, we're adding not just the overarching visual elements, but also the moments of choreography, some of the dance moments, the color guards continuing to get new work. So as the things go on the field, we're adding little bits and pieces to change things up. So even if you saw us this last Saturday at Washington, the show that we'll be doing on Friday at the Morton football game will already look a little bit different because we've added a few more things.
Awesome. And talk a little bit just from your own personal experience, right? Obviously, you became co-directors with Katrina Fitzpatrick this past spring. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of your first time in, I guess, the big chair, if you will. Just kind of how's that gone?
It's been a really fun time. As a staff, I think we have a really nice bond. We definitely, there's a lot of communication going on about what goals we have for this point in the season, what long-term goals, what short-term goals. So it's just been a lot of fun to work with Katrina, work with Mr. Gonzalez, and kind of create that experience and make sure that we're maintaining the high level of pride and performance that Morton Bands is known for.
Awesome. And obviously you mentioned football game this Friday, but then we're about a week away from you hosting your own invitational here. Tell me a little bit about kind of what goes into obviously hosting that, and then maybe what bands are coming in. Just talk a little bit about that.
So this is our 17th annual Morton High School Marching Invitational. And as a part of that, this is one of the largest events that Morton High School hosts. This year, We have a couple thousand students coming on campus to participate in the competition from all over central, northern, and southern Illinois. And we also bring in judges and adjudicators from across the country. We have individuals from Florida, Texas, Indianapolis, Illinois. So not just local, but we want to make sure that the bands that are coming to Morton get the highest level of adjudication in their clinics and in their performance tapes and things like that. So we're really just looking to provide a great experience adjudicationally, and then also we have some really good pumpkin spice coffee as well.
Very nice. Very nice. Talk about, as you kind of look ahead, you mentioned obviously it's a long season, right, going through into mid-November. What events are you participating in this year that maybe are exciting, and is there anything new that maybe people haven't seen before?
The biggest new thing this year that we haven't been able to do while I've been here at Morton is the Bands of America St. Louis Super Regional. It seems that that's always kind of fallen right around our Illinois State competition, and we obviously love to go to that. Illinois State will be there again this year. But that BOA St. Louis Regional is an opportunity to compete more on a national stage. Usually that doesn't really happen until the final Grand Nationals performance, but this year we have the opportunity to go perform at the America Dome in St. Louis at the end of October and really show against the broader competition what Morton Bands is, and then kind of see what we have to work on going into that final push in November.
Awesome. And then I'll get you out of here with this one last question. Just if you had maybe one goal that you want to accomplish for this season, what would be that goal?
Maintaining pride in performance, making sure that the students understand what it means to have pride in performance, regardless of what that score sheet says at the end of the day. If we can feel comfortable and confident when we walk off that field, knowing that we did our job and that the students performed to the best of their abilities, as a staff, that's always our goal, and that's always what we're going to be looking to achieve, regardless of the score.
Well, thank you very much for taking some time this morning, and we'll be right back after this.
Awesome. Well, as you can see, Mr. Hatter is super excited about this upcoming fall band season. You know, for those of you out there, band is definitely a season. They practice just as hard as anybody else. They're out there some days until sun up to sundown, and not just providing those halftime entertainments, but they had their first invitation over the weekend, and they did well there too, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Mr. Hatter talked about that. I mean, obviously, the performance to win. I mean, and obviously, the goal in any competition is to end up on top. But I thought it was interesting when he talked about the idea that yes, we won, but we're already making changes to be better for our next competition.
Yeah, you know, you always got to be moving, right? You never want to stand still. You always want to be getting better. We talk about that a lot as coaches. Band is no different, and hats off to them to their first place finish, and lots more invitationals coming up, including some big ones in St. Louis and Indy. So those Bands of America ones where you compete against the best in the Midwest, you know, hopefully Morton's going to be right there again this year.
Absolutely. And again, he mentioned it, but again, I'll just reiterate, if you can't make it to St. Louis or Indianapolis, you know, you can show up in a couple weeks here at Carper Field and watch Morton's own invitational and watch the band in that. So, I mean, obviously great opportunities, and of course, halftime of football games, all that as well.
Yeah, great job right there, space between. So hats off to Dave Matthews and Mr. Kirk Hatter. So switching gears, going back to, so we had Coach Zeller here last week, and he was super excited about this race over at Detweiler Park, you know, fight to the finish. How did we do over there?
Really, really well. Really, really well. Finished on the boys' side, 10th out of 554 teams.
Yeah, Josh did, right? Weeks?
Yeah, Josh Weeks, 10th out of 554. The teams, excuse me, so let's run that back. Josh was 10th out of 554 runners. The team was 4th out of 62 teams. So whatever way you want to combine that, that's really good.
Yeah, we dominated over there, which was pretty awesome right there. The girls had a really good finish as well, running through everything. So positives on that note. And then this week we come back and we had the Mid-Illini pre-conference. Kind of weird that cross-country does things a little differently, don't they? They have a pre-conference, conference. I mean, it's hard to keep up with.
It is a little bit. I mean, you know, the girls second, though, in the Mid-Illini pre-conference, Avery Breaker with a 4th place finish. So, I mean, like some really good stuff going on in cross-country on both the boys and the girls side. And we just heard Coach Zeller talk about it last week that, you know, he doesn't want to look too far ahead, but obviously there's some high expectations as we go forward.
Extremely high conference, and the boys, you know, took away that pre-conference as well. So hats off to our guys and girls on the cross-country side. Going over to the soccer pitch, how did we do over there?
Boys soccer, obviously really, really solid win over Pekin. Talk about those Mid-Illini wins, obviously priority, right? 4-0 win over Pekin. A 0-0 tie against Richwoods. Richwoods is known for having a really strong goalkeeper, and so, I mean, obviously you kind of saw that on display on Saturday when they played Richwoods 0-0 tie. But, I mean, obviously you look at the Morton defense, right? Well, you know what? if Richwoods puts up a 0, you put up a 0, you got to tip your cap to our defense as well.
For sure. I think great jobs right there. And then a big win, 3-0 win over state powerhouse Geneseo. So our boys soccer team continues to put up those wins and play really well on the pitch there. Obviously, you can catch those games on MPTV and FHS Network as well. Tune into the Morton Soccer page as well on Facebook. All kinds of things. But then let's get down to the big event, right? Everybody wants Friday Night Football. And last Friday, we got to go travel over to Canton. How'd that go?
Yeah, 57-13 winners over Canton. Let's go ahead and look at a couple highlights, and then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about some of the highlights that we saw in that game. Week 3 Middle-Illini opener for the Potters football team at Canton. Jude Hart finds GB Kruzik in the back of the end zone for a Potters touchdown. Potters put the ball in the air a few more times this week. Here, Jude Hart gets it out to Julian Alexander, and he will go all the way into the end zone. Nice move there, scores a touchdown. This time it's Preston Berg taking the tunnel screen, working his way upfield, puts his foot in the ground, gets vertical, and ends up in the end zone. Of course, it wouldn't be a week of Potters football without a Brett Michael interception. This time, Brett fields it off the tip, catches it, and takes it back, setting up another Potters score. Cole Rinkenberger here will score on the ground. Cole gets the handoff on the jet sweep, heads toward the end zone, will disappear from the picture, but I promise you folks, he scored. Finally, Jude Hart will score on the ground here, makes the fake to Deontay Smith and takes it himself. Potters end up winning the game 57-13, 1-0 now in the Middle-Illini.
So a big right there for the Hogs last week. Started off a little bit shaky, but ended up pounding the ball away there. A big day by Jude Hart, right?
Yeah, I mean, putting the ball in the air, I mean, you saw in the highlights 3 touchdown passes. Just kind of the idea of getting the ball in the air a little bit more. You never want to be stagnant. We talked about it with the band, it's the same thing in football, right? Like you make adjustments constantly. One adjustment that you're seeing from the football side of things is trying to be a little bit more multifaceted. I mean, Morton has been known as a running team for, I mean, a decade probably, really. You know, you go back even, you know, we go back 3 coaches. Morton was known as a running team. So Coach O'Neill comes in, obviously working with Coach Lawson on the offensive side, and one of the goals is, I mean, you're not necessarily ever going to be 50-50 balanced, but maybe getting to that 60-40 run pass.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to watch on video and even go to the games where you have Brett Michael, running back, very much power up the gut. You have Shonda Buffington who can run it out to the sides a little bit as well as gets you some of those cuts. And then you got, Jude Hart now coming alive as the quarterback. So throwing that 3-headed approach makes you pretty dangerous going into a big game versus Metamora.
Yeah, you go into a big game against Metamora, and Metamora obviously is a perennial power in the area. I think anybody who's been around here a long time knows that. I mean, Metamora comes in at 2-1, lost to Washington last week, did win their 2 non-conference games against Sterling and LaSalle Peru. And, it could be a battle of a lot of very skilled guys. I mean, Metamora, what they're known for, I mean, over the course of the years is obviously having great lines, but I would tell you, looking at this year's Metamora team, I've been very impressed with the skill guys that they have.
So it sounds like it's going to be a good matchup here for the Pumpkin Festival home football game. For those of you who didn't see, we got some pumpkins on the side of our helmets, repping up that city right there, almost like our own city uniforms a little bit.
Yeah,
it's pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. Coach O'Neill had the idea of doing that, and then it got posted out on Twitter, and as soon as that was the case, had multiple news organizations that wanted to come to practice and get some shots of that. So we had WEK there yesterday at practice, interviewed GB Kruzik talking about that idea of repping the town and repping Morton and the Pumpkin Fest and all that. So kind of fun little addition to the uniform this week.
I mean, are we going to be going like Next Steps Oregon here, where every week's a different uniform combo, maybe some different helmets, cleats?
It'd be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I think I like our uniforms. I mean, we went all red at home week 1. It'll be interesting to see, and the kids usually make the decision. It'll be interesting to see if they want to go all red again, or do you go red and white? Do you go red and gray? I mean, I really like the ability to kind of change it up. So I'd be interested to see, maybe pumpkin on the helmet, red jersey, maybe you go gray pants, who knows?
Oh, so who knows? You got to come out to Cupper Field, 7:30 p.m. Friday night to see Morton take on Metamora, which is going to be a really good drawn-out football game right there. Not to mention all the other Potter athletics that are happening this weekend in conjunction with the Pumpkin Festival and next week. So be sure to go out and support your Potter athletics wherever they may be, on the pitch, the court, the field, in the Potter Dome for the girls volleyball. Lots of things happening. So as well as if you want to watch us, MPTV, always please share, subscribe to that YouTube channel at Morton Potter TV. Football game is going to be on the NFHS network, where you can subscribe and watch that as well as on cable for that. So Coach, you have any final thoughts?
No, no, just to echo what you said, I mean, again, if you can't make it on Friday, don't be afraid to tune in NFHS Network for the football game with Lee Hall and Chad Zobrist on the call. It'll also be available on MPTV locally. So again, we'd love to have you at Carper Field, but if you can't be there, it should be a good one. So make sure you tune in.
Lots of things happening here at Morton High School. So again, for Ryan Lindley, I'm Eric Myers. Until next week, thank you all.